technology.
Mhm.
Ah! See, every time I'm moving, I'm like a robot.
Mhm.
All right, well, it is what 12 minutes past the hour that we
Mhm.
were expected to start, but hey, at least we're
It's one of
here.
those days
Yeah, it's
for
totally
both of
one
us.
of those days. I'm gonna put the camera on you for a bit because I'm getting
Okay.
really frustrated
Okay.
with every time I'm looking at myself and
All
I'm
right.
jumping. I Oh, now it's trying to tell me to run another update.
As
Um,
as I was just about to comment on the picture you posted, as the old adage says, to err is human, to completely fuck things up requires a computer.
oh, jeez. No, I don't want to install something. What is going on? Oh, Jesus. I don't know. You know what?
Let's just go.
Um, let's just go and then we'll figure it out. Okay. So we are doing episode 14, 15, and 16
Hmm.
of our Hangout
Hmm.
today.
Yes. This is Hangout 10, I think we figured out.
Yeah, we're around Hangout 10. So, I know Jeremy tried to join on and Leandre is was wanting to join in too, so I posted the intro invite, but
Okay.
hopefully people get it and they can join in at some point. So anyhow, let's start off. Get my notes here. Episode 14. So you can go ahead and start off here, John.
This is in this episode they find out that there is a huge bounty out for quite a number of bounty heads, and they proceed to go after them, and then find out that they are all being led around by someone named Chessmaster Hex, who is a very old man who was involved in the Gate program, and well, yeah, might as well spoil. We all supposedly watched it. Find out that
So this is
about
for Lauren. Lauren says that he has to catch up. So does Ron.
mm,
And Lauren has no excuse anymore because Lauren
because he has the
has
box set.
the box set.
Yeah.
So therefore, he really doesn't have an excuse
Mhm.
anymore.
They come to find out that Chessmaster Hex, 50 years prior, had set up this plan to get revenge on the company that he worked for. And even though he's now more or less senile and just plays chess all day online, the plan still went off, and all these crimes were committed, and they track him down and decide to let him go ultimately at the end. I really liked the different methods of capturing their bounties at the beginning.
Yeah.
Spike just decks his. Faye sneaks up behind hers and puts a dart in his neck and drugs him. And then Jet pulls out this like bazooka-sized net gun and nets like five of them at once.
I know. I love that too. I actually also really loved that it reminded me of like a lipstick thing.
Yeah,
I don't know,
I was
the way
actually
that she
thinking.
shot it, it's
Mhm.
just like it looked like some sort of lipstick, I don't know, tube or something.
I was actually thinking a USB drive, little thumb drive. It
Oh
looked like
yeah,
about
yeah,
that.
it could have been a USB drive.
Yeah, but she just puts it right up on his neck, pushes a button, and injects him.
Yeah, I loved that. I also so for me the first part when Ed is yawning is
Hmm.
exactly like I was like, oh, I totally understand you, Ed, right now.
Hmm.
Like I told you, like I was up till 5 in the morning last night, and my brain is completely a mess of jello.
Yeah.
But and I also loved Faye's pickup ad when she says like how, oh yeah, you can pick up all the girls by destroying the astral gates. That was
Mhm.
awesome. I love that. And I also really enjoyed this episode because it was like a slow burner,
Mhm.
in terms of the way that the crime was played out.
Mhm.
And the concept of it was genius.
Well, it took you a while, even when you knew about Chessmaster Hex, you still needed a lot more information to really piece together how he was responsible for all of it, and you needed some backstory.
Yeah.
And this is another one that allows me, and now that I know when the show takes place, it allows me to kind of connect it to now, because Chessmaster Hex is actually a year younger than I am. If I'm still alive in 2071, I'll be 99.
I was gonna say,
I'm saying,
you're 98 years old?
but I'll
Wow.
be in 2071. I'll be 99. So it allowed me to kind of put the timeline together. He joined the GATE program in 2003.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy to think. And yeah, because he joined the program when he was 30, you
30.
said.
Yeah.
And so it also, I really like this episode because it talks about like how greedy these companies were.
Yeah.
You know, greed is still very much apparent. You know, it's an inherent human value, or if you want to say it that way. Trait, yeah. So that was one of the things that I thought was really interesting to talk about.
And it was a classic worm, basically, a worm virus that he used. He just had all of these, hundreds of people inject this worm into this company, taking a little bit at a time. Over count all of these, over in all of these instances, and it just made him an insane amount of money, and it made a lot of money for, of course, the people involved too. That's how he got them. He had a mail order catalog he was selling called How to Make $1 Million Overnight or something.
Yeah, that I love that.
Not catalog. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got this mail order catalog, and it's just all these random individuals that were interested in some sort of get-rich-quick scheme.
And it taught them how to set up the worm that made all the money for Hex.
Exactly.
Well, or it was supposed to. I don't actually know if he was collecting on it at this point, because he'd completely forgotten about it.
Yeah, I thought about that too. Like, if he's forgotten about it, does he even care about the actual money?
I don't get the impression that he was even collecting on it, because he was basically living in a commune. There were a bunch of hippies around there. It was, the sitar music and, all these flowers.
Yes, that actually, so basically, let's kind of backtrack a little bit. What ended up happening was there was this bounty for a mastermind who was hacking all these astral gates, and there was all these robberies essentially of these gates, and it was all money laundered through electronic transactions, and nobody could figure out what happened, how they did it, and Faye, as we mentioned, Faye, Spike, and Jet had all caught these 20 hackers, essentially. And once they caught the hackers, they thought they would get the reward money, but they didn't. Because, as Big Shot tells us, you were supposed to get the big guy. So once you got the big guy, then you would get the money. Yeah. But as we can see, the mastermind doesn't even know that he did it. So it's a big problem for them. I really love how Jet confronts the corporation, the Astralgate Corporation, and how they assume that he's stupider, or more stupider. Wow, see, I have no brain today. So he's more stupid than they think, but in reality, he's more intelligent.
I love the cigarette bug. He walks into the office, he lights up a cigarette, takes a few drags, and they tell him, no smoking in here. He puts it out in this potted plant, walks out, he's escorted out of the building, and he just takes out this little tablet, and he's listening in on the conversation. I'm assuming the cigarette was a bug. I mean, they don't explicitly say it, but that's the only thing that he could have left there.
Well, I kind of thought it was pretty obvious when he threw it out right there
I didn't even
in the
think
office.
about it. Yeah.
It was intentional completely. Yeah. And I like that Jet also, when he's there with these suits, he says, "You suits are using us bounty hunters like pawns," which goes back to reinforcing the whole idea of them being in a chess game.
The way they found out it was Chessmaster Hex was they'd gone after all of these individual bounties and came with nothing. Found out they couldn't collect on the money. And they're talking to Ed, and I forget how it came up, but basically, what was there anything in common, any common factor? And they all pull out these white pawns, and one of them just happens to activate this electronic chess game that Ed had been messing with and trying to get to work. I loved when Ed fried herself too, because she's jacking into the ship's electrical system to try to get this game to work, and she electrocutes herself. And Faye just looks over. Are you dead?
Oh, I wrote that down too, because when she says you dead, like it's the classic, and Faye just looks at Ed like, and then she like kicks Ed. She's like, are you there? Like she just like not kicks but pokes Ed.
Yeah.
And I love that the whole episode, Edward keeps saying, Edward is very busy right now.
Mm-hmm. Edward had to play chess against Chessmaster Hex, apparently. Ed,
Exactly.
I'm getting that Ed is very much the typical Asperger's case, where once she has her hooks into something, it's the hyper focus. She can't pull out of it.
Right.
And also kind of detached from everybody, kind of off in her own world.
Yeah. Ed always seems to be fairly detached from everybody else.
Yeah.
Ed is continuously, I would say, off in her own little world. Yeah. She's either playing in computers or talking to Ein, and that's her world for her. Yeah. I mean, she interacts with Jet and with Spike and with Faye, but I think of all the people she interacts with the most, it's got to be Jet and Faye.
Yeah.
Faye, especially since they have the feminine connection, essentially.
Yeah.
But and Jet, because Jet is just, he's always around on the ship, and Jet is dad.
Right.
So
clearly doesn't listen, which we get into in 16. She barely hears Jet, or she just doesn't care. I don't know.
No, I don't think she really cares. She's just more like, oh, Edward is busy right now, and she's like a cross between, I think, Asperger and an animal.
Oh yeah, she's very feral in a lot
very
of ways.
Animalistic tendencies. Like for instance, when she's playing the game, and I don't know who it was. I think Faye was like, "Hey, we need to do something or whatever," and Edward looks up and is like, "Ah!" Like. It was awesome.
She barks at people in a couple of episodes, if I recall correctly.
Yes, she will be barking at people. I love that. And I also really like that. What was the name of the place that they went to? I don't remember the name of it now. But
Hex's lair.
Yeah, it's not really a lair though.
Oh.
It was more of a junkyard.
Yeah.
Like you think of, I don't know, some junkies in a junkyard. Well, like that's kind of what it was.
But you had the sitar music and the flowers, and they were it was very much a typical like 60s hippie commune sort of a place.
Yeah, that I think was really interesting, is that it definitely had those sorry, all my bells are going off around me.
It was just a very surprising place to find a 98-year-old chess master.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely was a surprising place for that. Let me close these out. All these random noises. So yeah, it was definitely an interesting place to find a 98-year-old chess player who's gone senile. And I love when they're walking into this into the ruins junkyard, essentially. And it's just, it actually reminded me in some ways of Guardians of the Galaxy. The scene where they went to,
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay. Well, they go to nowhere, and I think it's called Nowhere, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so they go to nowhere, and there's just like all these like random things going on, and it's an old mine. Okay. But this is a little more run down and I don't even know the word, just garbage than
It's
nowhere.
falling apart.
Yeah, I mean, and I love the fact when they're going through this like piecemeal of a ship or whatever, and there's all these like random maze uh, halls that
Yeah.
they're going down. And one part, I don't know if you caught in the scene, but it says factory block or farm block.
I didn't catch that.
It's like the most random thing. Like Spike is like, "What the hell?" And then there's a sign that says factory block and farm block. And then I was like, that's really interesting. What? Why is like it's just some random.
Well, it makes sense if it's turned into a commune. They need places to farm and support themselves and also make money, probably with the factory section.
I think you're giving these hippies a little more credit than they actually deserve.
Possibly. Maybe it was just a holdover from whatever that ship used to be.
Yeah, maybe that was more of whatever was left over of the gate in terms of like the maze setup. But yeah, I don't think the hippies worked at all. And and then they're like, oh, peace to the whole galaxy, man. Peace to the whole galaxy and my bank account. And you want one? And it's just like,
oh, that's right, the bank account.
What?
I forgot the bank account line.
Yeah.
I bet they were collecting on the hack.
That would be, I mean, they never tell us who's collecting on it, but that would be an interesting connection.
With the bank piece to my bank account, that implies that he's got money. And how would he have money unless he was collecting on the hack that was still coming in there because Chessmaster Hex was there, but Chessmaster Hex obviously didn't care about it.
Ah, that's a good point. Maybe that's what happened. And also, I actually, and this goes into the next episode as well, but he actually looks like he's 98 years old.
Yeah.
So, in comparison to like other people like Faye, who's close to his age, he actually looks like he's 98 years old. And I love the fact that he schemed and built this concept of a 50-year plan. It's like some people would build a retirement plan, and for him, he thought, you know what? These people are going to screw me because they fired him after he discovered the defect in the gate, and he said, hey, we shouldn't go forward with this project if there's a defect. So, but no, instead they decided to fire him.
Which leads, of course, to the kid in episode 4, if you really want to connect the universe. The defect in the gate. Which then leads to the harmonica player in episode 4, if you really want to connect the dots in the universe. Because the defect caused the explosion.
Yes.
And I think it also leads to the next episode. There was a reference to the explosion. That's
where I was actually going to say is that we also get that connection now, understanding what happened to the gates. So it kind of all starts to come together a little bit more. We're getting more background into the stories, and as well as seeing linkages. It goes back to Space Dandy for me. You need to watch season 2. You need to watch it so I can talk about it.
I did not have a chance since Tuesday. I did catch up on Parasite, so we can talk about that a bit.
I definitely want to know your thoughts about that. Okay, so, and I love Don't Make Ed Angry. I just sat there and I looked at it and I was like, what's that saying? Don't make
me angry. You won't like me when I'm angry. It's from The Incredible Hulk, the 70s TV show. Bill Bixby. Look for it now.
And I had, where else am I? I think that's it.
I just pictured Ed turning into the Hulk at that point. Because I grew up on that show, so to me that's like an immediate connection when she said "Don't make me angry." I just had this picture of Ed suddenly turning into the Hulk.
That would have been awesome to see if Ed just started turning green. That just for comedic value, just because why not?
Oh
So
yeah. Well, they go super deform enough on Ed. They can
yeah,
change her color a little bit.
well, they do make her the most cartoonish, as we talked about last hangout, that she's always the one that appears the most cartoonish
Yeah.
and the most childish and has the like wacky eyes and wacky faces, like the big mouth and everything. So,
I would love to see an update on this show, like 10 years later. I would love to see Ed
oh,
as an
okay.
adult.
Ed as an adult, that would be interesting. That would be a great spin-off, kind of like Breaking Bad's Better Call Saul.
Mhm. Or if they just worked her into an episode of Dandy. Just, the adult version of Ed
Yes.
shows up.
Oh, yeah, 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 totally. Yeah, okay. You need to watch season 2 so I can make
Yeah.
another reference because
Okay.
I want to, but I'm not going to because
I found it on Kiss Animate's dub, so I should be able to sell through it.
yeah, you can find it there. I found somewhere else, but now I can't remember. Anyway, so and so Ed is continuing to play this chess game with the master chess player,
Mm.
and what is it for like a week? She's playing the game.
For the extent of the episode, however long that takes, probably that week.
Yeah, and then
And Faye approaches her at the end and says, "Are you still playing? Are you playing another game of chess?
right,
Same
right,
game. She's
yep,
been playing the same game for a week."
and she's all excited, and she thinks that she's got him in checkmate, and then he gets her,
Mhm.
and Hex is just. It seems like he had a very momentous like moment.
It was a good game.
Yeah, and I think he died.
Yeah, I did get that impression. They don't explicitly say it again, but yeah,
Yeah. Well, his
it
parents
was a fitting
went.
end.
Hmm?
Yeah, it was a fitting end.
Off. So I thought that was a really nice, touching, sentiment for him, considering
Mhm.
that he worked for 50 years to have this crazy criminal scheme hatch.
Yeah.
Doesn't even remember it.
Mhm.
Doesn't even probably get the proceeds from it.
Mhm.
And at least he gets like that, really great joy of having a good chess game
Yeah.
before he dies. So, and I love Faye's intro into My Funny Valentine. I don't know if you listened for like the last bit, but
Yeah.
her talking about love and love is this and love is that, la 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 la, like all this crap. Oh, hey, hi.
How's it going?
Yeah,
Good. Thanks for joining.
My pleasure. Yeah, I was trying to get on earlier, but I ended up to pick my guys up from school instead of them catching a bus. So.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for joining. We're just finishing up episode 14 now and going into 15. So if you have anything you want to add.
Oh, sure. Okay, so just catch me up briefly. What you covered so far, and then I can add in without being redundant.
15 is the one where we find out why Faye is older than she looks and exactly what happened to her.
Ah.
She had an accident when she was 20. Was it directly related to the gate explosion?
Yes.
I wasn't sure, but it was directly.
It was, at least according to the doctor.
Because there was a reference to the gate, but I wasn't sure if it was directly connected or not. Okay. So she has, she gets injured and is put into cryo for 54 years and is thawed in 2068. So that would make her, during the course of the series, 77.
She looks great for 77.
Yeah.
Oh yes, very much so. And I think pretty much from Faye Valentine's perspective, and of course they allude to it in several different episodes. She was someone who was either cryogenically frozen or suspended animation, but she was actually from a previous time. So, and looking at her now and seeing her age, you see the fact that she's not really what she appears to be for that time and age. Yeah. She's actually much older.
She's from our time, actually. She was frozen in 2014.
Yeah, exactly. And then to awaken in that age and still look the way that she looks, and also another thing I was very pleased with and impressed with was the fact that she acclimated to that new era so well. And then the way that she plays off the Spike Spiegel throughout those episodes is, it's very comedic. It's very playful, not without that romantic overtone that you see in a lot of other anime. It's pretty much straightforward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, I actually I definitely agree with what you said, Leandre. Like for me, I think Faye and the way that Faye interacts with this world is very interesting. Considering that she's been out of
Right
Ohio
for 3 years.
for what, just 3 years? Yeah. So we only, know that Faye's been out for about 3 years, and hang on one second. I think is there back noise? So okay, so yeah, so I think also another interesting part about Faye being out for just those 3 years is how quickly she's decided to become a bounty hunter, essentially. How quickly she's learned to start scheming to gain everything she needs. And
given that she lost her memory, after the explosion, she never really regained her memory since being thawed. Perhaps the scheming was something from her past.
good
That just
point.
became natural.
Good point. Maybe that was the case, that she might have had that background. We don't know, and she doesn't know.
Right.
And we as the audience don't get to know more about that, essentially.
But it also kind of gives you a window into why she became a con artist again, if she had been one in the past. Because if she gets thawed and she falls for, was it her attorney? Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And
Her attorney. Let's put it in quotation marks.
Yeah, we never really find out if he's actually an attorney.
Huh?
Do we find out if he's really an attorney?
I don't think he is. I mean, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't really get to know that. We do find out. Hi, Leandre.
Welcome back.
Hello.
Welcome
sorry about
back.
that. Yeah,
No
bad
problem.
signal there.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm in like bad dub situation today, so like every single minute that I speak, it's like I'm a robot or something. So, but we don't actually think we get to know if Whitney Haggis. Can we just talk about this guy's name?
Whitney Haggis.
Matsumoto.
Name.
That is
not very appetizing.
the most random. Like, I feel like somebody was just like, hey, let's throw these names together and see what sticks.
Aside from Jet Black, they do a great job with names on this show. Like, Jet Black is a little on the nose. But, Spike Spiegel, it sounds like a Stan Lee character. Faye Valentine is, straight out of some noir movie. And
yes.
I don't even remember Ed's full name.
Huh?
Yeah.
And I don't even remember Ed's full name.
Edward, something, like, Edward has the longest name. Yeah. It's like five names or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Like 4 or 5.
Which I believe he gets from his father.
Yeah, she gets that from, like, her father, and, like, Polish. I think there's some Polish in there as well.
And probably some Japanese.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I think this name, for me, like, what's the most weird about it is the name of Haggis.
Haggis, yeah.
Why would you throw that into a name? Like, I don't know. I love this episode also because there's Dr. Bacchus. Bacchus is the god of wine, the Greek god of wine. So that was hilarious that they threw that in there. And they even make the reference to it because he talks about how
he had a drinking problem and Bacchus got the better of Bacchus or something.
Exactly. So
right.
I really like that bit. And then
there was a slight error, and they couldn't have known it was 98. But when she looks at the thermometer and thinks it's a cell phone, and he said it's because cell phones have antennas. They haven't had antennas in 5 years?
Right.
Right, exactly.
I just love whenever science fiction makes a mistake like that.
Well, it's kind of like they only had that snapshot of what their impression
Yeah.
of a future time will be, and of course they have to act accordingly. You see a lot of that in the original Star Trek, for example.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in '98, cell phones were in their infancy.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I remember the first cell phone I had had the antenna.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I mean, it wasn't it was for a long time we've had the antenna. So
I think up until the iPhone, really, up until smartphones happened.
yeah, until we had the first real smartphones come out. Even the original PDAs, they had an antenna, like the original Blackberries and everything. So, it's not completely.
Oh, yeah. It makes sense that they would say that.
Huh?
It makes perfect sense that they would assume that they would still have antennas in 2014. I just kind of, find it amusing when I find it.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, what lawyer gives flowers to?
Well, yeah, this lends credence to the idea that he really wasn't a lawyer, more of an ambulance chaser who saw an attractive woman and decided to try to pick her up.
Or maybe,
But the ending of the episode really kind of gives you a window into why she became a con artist again.
Yeah.
Because,
yeah, I love the ending.
She falls for this guy. He ultimately sacrifices himself for her, but then leaves her with a ton of debt.
Yeah, she thought he was her Prince Charming, and he interpreted himself as her Prince Charming, and she was his Sleeping Beauty. So there you go. He even says it. He even says, "I fell in love with Sleeping Beauty." So
borrowed from a Sandra Bullock movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it?
I think it was called While You Were Sleeping.
Yeah, While You Were Sleeping.
Oh, ha. Well, there you go. I loved that when she was walking around, when she escapes the hospital, she is looking at these vending machines, and like they just start jumping out, like the holographs just start jumping out at her, and like, hey, want to have a beer? Ha 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 ha! Like, so bizarre. And I mean, to me, if I was walking around and I was completely out of that time, I would be thrown off too. I actually thought about. Do you remember Back to the Future when Marty McFly is going in, and he's in I don't remember what year he was in now, and he's seeing like all of these items and all of these, like he's just completely shocked at what he's finding. He's seeing hovercrafts, he's seeing all this like crazy stuff, So it's a lot like how Faye feels walking around looking at everything, trying to like flag down and be a hitchhiker, and there's a ship flying overhead.
I mean, I'm not 50 yet, but just going from the technology I knew as a kid in the early 80s to what we have now, if I just made that shift suddenly, that would be a hell of a culture shock. I remember.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There was a series in the early '80s, a very bad PI series called Matt Houston that I used to watch, and one of the contrivances at the time was they had a computer that could show photographs of whoever the suspect was. And at the time, I knew I was a little bit into computers. I'm thinking computers can't do that. A computer can't show a photograph. That would be hard.
Yeah, go figure, right?
Yeah, that was one of those. I mean, so if you take yourself, imagine like you are, like you said, from like if you're in the 50s and then all of a sudden you're thrown into 2010, and you see everybody walking around with their own computers essentially, and you have no idea what that technology is, like completely throws you off. So I really appreciate how Faye was just so shocked, and I mean, and rightly so. And then, of course, her Prince Charming comes around and tries to woo her off her feet. And I love that he says something so ridiculous. I absolutely love the cheese in this episode. There's so much cheese. If you hang in there, you might meet somebody wonderful. Like, come on. It's so ridiculous. And then it's like Pretty Woman, okay? So
Very
he
much.
takes her out, he wines and dines her, he buys her nice clothes, he takes her dancing and all this stuff, and then he tells her this, like, oh, when he's like, oh, the collection agency is after us. I actually think the collection agency was after him.
Could have been. Well, they were after her at first. She clearly owed a lot of money.
Right.
When
but
they tracked them down,
we find out that he actually has all this debt too. But beyond that, the fact that she ends up like with all this debt, and the first person that's interacted with is him, and I don't know. To me, I thought like maybe the collection agency was after him, and he was like, "Oh, I've got to protect my princess."
And he just faked his own death to get them off of his back.
Which is fantastic. I love that.
And left her the money to take care of her debt as well as this.
Right.
And they did establish that his debt was less than hers. And she
Yes, a drop in the bucket and compared to hers. Yeah. And then the other thing is now going on from there. I love that Spike was in the bathroom the whole time, listening in, and he says, "Haha, he says, yeah, your story's too long. It needs editing."
Loved that one.
Awesome. And he tells her that her past is always changing. But I mean, that kind of makes sense when we figure out that Faye doesn't really know who Faye is. I mean, Faye is a name, and we find out later on this episode, Faye is even not really her name. She doesn't know what her name is. They just found her, and they decided, and they found her actually from the Astral Gate explosion. They do establish that.
I remember a reference to the gate explosion. I just didn't exactly remember if that was the cause, or I didn't catch if that was the cause of her injuries. And I'm glad that they established that Faye Valentine is a fake name, because it always just sounded like a fake name.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. I mean, I think it's a great name, though. I mean, it's fantastic.
Like I said, it's completely out of a 50s noir movie, or 40s noir movie.
Yes. And like you said, I think going to the point about all the names that we have here for characters, this episode gives you some of the most ridiculous names and some of the most interesting, comedic moments. I mean, the fact that it's this like romantic love story, and Faye, was just like, oh, this guy killed himself for me, in her mind, of course, up until we find out that Jet is bringing in a bounty, and the bounty happens to be
Haggis.
Mr. Haggis himself. And he looks like he's been eating a lot of haggis.
And in just 3 years, he looks like he's aged about 20 and gained about, 100 pounds.
Well, what is it that he said that he had to be injected with fat to save him?
Yeah.
So...
Well, he said that. I think it was to hide his identity, to just, make him look different enough that he could change his name and pretend to be someone else. I
also love that Jet says, like, oh, this guy is apparently a Don Juan when he brings him in. And Faye takes a look at him and goes, oh, no. You? I thought you were dead. Clearly he's not, so...
And this episode and the horror episode a few back really speak to the brilliance of this show, because they can turn on a dime and really just hit any genre they want to and make it work.
Yeah.
This was a classic love story, really, in a lot of ways.
I was thinking it was a classic love story.
Comedy.
But I loved that they were building up all this really romantic, cheesy bits in the beginning to make you feel like, oh, what a sweet guy. Like, what a Prince Charming, what a perfect guy. Like, he really, wants to take care of her and be with her and just do everything for her and make her feel all special and safe and comfortable. And then we come now to find that he's pretty much a con artist.
And it's been years since I've watched Bebop. I generally don't remember the storylines of the individual episodes, but when that song started playing, when they were on the date, I haven't heard it since the last time I watched Bebop, and I remember really liking that song, and it rang a bell. I actually remembered a piece of music more than I remembered the actual story.
So it's funny you mentioned that because the harmonica episode totally rang that bell for me.
Ah.
Because and that and of course the Ballad of a Fallen Angel
Mm-hmm.
and also Jupiter Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
Like those three are my ones that really stuck out thus far in my brain beforehand. And also I would also add to that this one because I totally forgot about it too until we started watching it again.
Yeah.
And I would also include now my brain's gone. Forget it.
We're talking about the memorable music in the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to actually see if I can track down. I'd like to get the soundtrack, but particularly an MP3 of this song.
You know what? If you find it, do share it. That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, the soundtrack shouldn't be hard to find. I should probably just buy the soundtrack because there's so much great music on.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, Yoko Kano contributed just solid gold to the soundtrack and was absolutely heavenly in the vocal selections. The ending of the movie, for example,
Yeah.
that really got me.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to go into the movie. Like, Lauren was saying, like, oh, I can't believe we're having 2 hangouts in 1 week. And I said, well, I really want us to get through this, because once we're on this roller coaster, especially the second half, we really got to go through the roller coaster.
Right.
I mean, it's gonna start getting more intense. It's gonna definitely start getting darker. It's gonna start getting, I would say, even more memorable in parts, So I told him, I was like, yeah, I know, but we kind of have to. Like, we have to, especially when we're going towards the movie. The movie's going to be, I mean, anyway, let's not continue.
But one more comment about Yoko Kano. A while back, there was a Geek Question of the Day, and for those who don't know, the Geek Question of the Day is something Charlie Hoover posts on Google+.
Shout out to Charlie Hoover.
Yes. The geek question in this case was, who would you put on a geek Mount Rushmore? And I had worked out several of them, different kind of geek Mount Rushmores, and I was trying to do an anime one, a real person anime, because the character anime is easy.
Can we add Satoshi Kon?
I could not come up with a fourth. I had Miyazaki, Satoshi Kon, Yoko Kano, and I could not come up with a fourth.
Yuki Kajira.
Okay. What did they do?
Yuki Kajira does, oh crap, wait. I just jumped in there and I totally forgot. Musician, and now, hang on. I have to tell you because my brain's gonna totally be mad at me if I don't remember this right now. And of course, all my technology runs slow. Yuki Kajira, come on. Oh man, why? You know what? I will remember it.
Okay.
Let's continue on with that.
We'll
So,
get back
sorry,
to it. I was thinking
I should
maybe
know this offhand for all of the.
We have Edward's full name in the chat. Thank you, Landra.
Thank you, Landra. That's awesome. Edward Wong Howe
Tversky the Fourth.
That is an awesome name.
Chinese, not Japanese.
And I believe the Pepelu was a play on words from Pepe Le Pew.
Yes.
Definitely.
Because you know what, they say it so fast that I was actually thinking it's Pepe Le Pew. So it totally makes sense.
Went past me completely. I vaguely remember Wong, but that's about it. And the fourth at the end. The rest just kind of went over my head. But the fourth for the Mount Rushmore thing, I was thinking either Keiko Nobumoto, who was the scriptwriter for Bebop and co-wrote Tokyo Godfathers.
Oh yes.
Or possibly Steve Blum, because he's in every English dub.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, Yuki Kajiura does Fate Zero. Yuki
Oh, okay.
Kajiura does whatchamacallit? Kata no Kyokai. Yuki Kajiura does a whole bunch of stuff. But okay, so my only thing with Yuki Kajiura is that sometimes it can all kind of blend together. Some of her music sounds very similar, but I take nothing away. I absolutely love the soundtracks of Fate Zero.
Mhm.
So okay, let's move on.
Thank you.
So we need to finish up talking about. So Faye ends up getting this guy, and it's her ex-boyfriend, so she's got a lot of pent-up anger against him, essentially. And I love what Jet says: women are hopeless and they don't work on reason. This statement, I'm a woman, so I can say this.
Yes.
It is so true. I don't care. I can be burned at the cross
That was
for
unexpected.
but I swear it is the truth. My poor other half the time he's like, I don't even understand what you're saying, and I don't even understand what you're trying to argue. And then I get into that argument with him, and then I start looking at it and I go, what am I arguing about anyway? What is the point that I'm trying to make?
I can't understand what my husband says.
Huh?
It's like I can't understand what my husband says.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I love that you just made that reference. Oh my God, yes. It's exactly
I still need to watch that.
how it is. Yes, John, you have
That'll
to.
be that'll be easy. It's like they're what, 4-minute episodes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that'll be easy enough to blow through.
And it's like 13 episodes. It's hilarious, especially for people who watch anime and I guess who are quote unquote considered otakus or any version of. They really appreciate it because I absolutely appreciated it. Like I sat there and I was almost crying laughing. Some of the references they did the pregnancy test meme, the Japanese pregnancy test meme. They did references to Death Note. They've done some references in there to some of the drawing style is moe at times, so it's hilarious. It's just flat out so funny. It's fantastic.
This is another reason I really want to get to Watamote, because there's a ton of references in that too.
That's true. Yeah, we definitely do need to add. Well, anyway, but that's going on for the list.
Let's get back to the show.
All right. So we have to finish up episode 15. So Faye says that I have some unfinished business with him and claim rights to him and the bounty first. And Spike just looks at her and goes, that doesn't even make sense.
Because, Spike really couldn't understand. And I think from him and the fact that he was so detached from a relationship perspective, he really couldn't make that relation between what Faye was trying to say to him and what Faye needed to do.
Right.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. As well as I think Spike has a lot of emotional blockage that he doesn't want to. Well, I mean, we're just starting to see that now.
As we saw in 12 and 13.
Yes, in Jupiter Jazz, and we're starting to kind of uncover more of that emotional void that Spike has developed for himself. And so when we see Faye kind of becoming more of an emotional character, he's like, but that's not the Faye that I know. So that's kind of strange for him. And it's funny because we were talking about last Hangout how Faye was in Jupiter Jazz was clearly testing Jet and Spike, and just to see where she falls along the line of how important she is to them, as well as she starts to crack in terms of her veneer that she's trying to keep up. As far as her con artist self is, she doesn't really know what's truth and what's false. So that's hard. That's hard, especially as a woman. I mean, you wake up what, 30 years difference, and now you are still looking 20, but now you're in this world and you have no reference point whatsoever, and everything that you've just been told is also a lie.
Yeah.
So, now you're going to cling to, first of all, you're going to try to make yourself really strong. And you're going to try to invest and be as confident as you can be.
Right.
And then when you find somebody that you can maybe rely on, now you have that fear factor,
Especially given what happened to Haggis.
Right.
Bingo. Yeah. Well, we know that Haggis is not the very not the guy that he seems. So, and I love that the doctor comes back. The doctor comes back to her and or shows up out of nowhere with Haggis there, and Haggis says, "Well, yeah, actually, that's my uncle. Sorry." And like out of the blue, yeah, by the way, that's my uncle, and we've been telling you crap the whole time. And then the doctor tells her, yeah, oh, and by the way, I just gave you that name because I really like that song, and you were just pretty, so I thought, yeah, sure, why not? So Faye returns to her old self and says, you know what, I just need to get my bounty and get the hell out of here. I'm done with this crap. And, of course, Haggis's last line is, well, but there was truth. I fell in love with Sleeping Beauty. And he's like, oh, no, that's a lie too. That's a lie.
Exactly.
So, and I love that Spike also tells, when Faye returns back to her old self, Spike is like, oh, that's better. Because he's like, I can't handle this emotional female crap.
Exactly. Well, one thing Cowboy Bebop, in my mind, always tries to exemplify is just a normal proceedance of the abnormal, right? Okay, so you saw these characters, how they interact with each other. That's the abnormal phase of Cowboy Bebop, right? That's what they show you, but then they also always try to emphasize, well, we want this to stay this way. If it ever leaves from this abnormal state to something more normal or a different kind of abnormal, things are always going to go wrong. You know what I mean? It's like a Vash the Stampede kind of a flow.
Yes.
We've been talking throughout the Hangouts while discussing the show that they're basically a family.
Yeah.
Jet's the father, Spike and Faye are the teenage kids.
Right.
And then, I guess Ed is the little sister.
There you go.
Yes.
Oh, and let's not forget Ein. So.
Yeah. Your family dog.
Ein is the family dog.
Yeah.
Ein is the family dog that also happens to be a data dog. We still really don't know what that means, essentially. But I don't even think we get to know about what that means.
I don't think so, no. I don't recall it.
They touch lightly upon it in the episode where they actually encounter Ed's father, but they don't go any deeper than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Ed deserves a spin-off for sure, or at least some time on Space Dandy.
I was saying earlier, I want to see the adult version of Ed. I want to see what she turns into.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Okay, so now we know they actually catch him. He's in jail. He gets the bounty. The bounty is like a menial 19,000 or something. And Jet says, yeah, I threw an extra zero on there just to make it seem better than it was.
Right, get you guys motivated.
Yeah.
No, they're all about the Wulongs.
Exactly.
Right.
So, anybody else? I'm sorry. Does anybody have anything else to add about episode 15?
Nope.
All right. Let's go into episode 16 and our final episode for this hangout. Episode 16.
Another great backstory episode.
Huh?
Another great backstory episode. I'm the lore geek. I like to find out, what happened to the characters before the beginning of the show and what their histories are and all that. And we finally get to find out what happened to Jet's arm.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
I love the art in this particular episode. It's got that very gritty, very dark, very like cloudy feel to me. I don't know how to explain it, but
A lot
and
of times when they get into Jet's backstory, they go very noir.
yes, that's exactly where I'm going with it. So I love that we get that very dark, gritty, all the shades are very gray, very like maroon. Even the blood, it's like more of a maroon color, and I also really love the intro to this episode. The fact that you just see all these bodies,
Mhm.
and then there's just this slamming noise,
Right.
and it's on a head.
Mhm.
And then this guy says, our whimsical god gave us this gift. And you start to see that it's a prison riot that they took over the ship.
A prison ship was taken over by the inmates.
Yes.
Yes.
And then the assassin for the syndicate, Ode, says, "Cheers to the ship that charmed the devil," and he pours the Dom Perignon just down the throat of one of the guards that he just killed.
Yeah.
Which
is symbolic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I was like, wow, that was an amazing way to intro this very dark background story of Jet. And then we're switching gears and we're going on the ship. And so do you remember we had this question where we were saying we wonder if there's more bathrooms on board?
Yes.
A couple hangouts ago?
Yes.
I think we get that answer because she says showers.
That's true. You're right.
Plural. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm under the impression that there's more than one shower.
There would have to be. And Spike spent the entire episode in the bathroom, and it wasn't the one that Faye was previously, and it wasn't the one that Faye was chained up in. So.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And you would also allude to multiple showers, given the fact that Faye, most of the bathroom scenes you see her in a bathroom, but if you see Spike or Jet coming out from somewhere, it's usually in a different area of the ship. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then I love that, Faye's there and she's freaking out, and Jed is there and he's sitting there with his bonsai trees, just manicuring his bonsais, very zen, very chilled out, and Faye just storms in there all like, ah! And then he tells her, you know what, this is my ship, this is my arm, pretty much like, shut up, just shut the hell up. Stop.
After ranting about the shower, she tells him that he should get his arm repaired.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we're back on board the prison ship, and the thing that really struck me about the prison ship is when they killed the pilot of the ship, the blood splatter, how it's just floating. That was an incredible shot, just to see the floating blood splatter, and they're just sitting there, and discussing how they're going to deal with the situation that now they've killed all their hostages off.
I loved all of the stuff with the inmates.
Yes.
But the stuff with Jet's backstory was kind of a little cliche for my tastes.
I actually wanted to say that too. I mean, it's not like we didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
As the viewer, like you're sitting there watching it, and Jet has this situation where he's wearing a hat. First of all, Jet is wearing like a hat and he looks like Dick Tracy.
Oh yeah. Classic, black fedora.
Yeah.
Classic film noir.
Yes. So we're once again we're going back into the noir where Jet is that very old grizzled cop, but the good cop, of course. And he ends up getting the short end of the stick. He ends up getting set up.
It's the classic. He was set up by his crooked partner because he wouldn't play ball.
There you go.
Yeah.
But also we see a homage to the gumshoe classics here. In the
That's
way
a good point. That's not something that we had really. I didn't really add to, but the gumshoe classics is a very very good point to that too. Um, and actually, I think it goes to what his partner says when he meets up with his partner. And he says, "This is not a world for smokers anymore."
Yeah.
So clearly, that's just the foreshadowing bit. I mean, I liked that they threw that that sentence in there, that phrase in there, because it kind of ties up really nicely with the ending shot that we get where Jet has shot his partner, and now he is going to give him a cigarette.
And having quit, year and a half ago, it really hits home today. Just having quit smoking.
Uh-huh.
So from a personal perspective,
It's rapidly becoming not a world for smokers anymore.
Yeah. So yes, it's just as true in that anime world as it is in real life. And another thing, I think another thing Jet symbolizes is innocence loss. Like for Jet, initially Jet was someone who was very, we want to call him lawful good, if we want to use a D&D context. He was lawful good. Jet was someone who he had his ideals, he stuck to his ideology, and he believed in it fervently. So to have that taken away from him, and not just the loss, like I think for those episodes, they probably thought, okay, here is a loss. Hey, how's it going?
I made it.
Oh, awesome! Are you caught up?
I think I might be ahead. I know I went past the refrigerator stuff and all that. So.
Yeah, we are now in episode 16. We're talking about how we find out about Jet's betrayal from his partner. Huh?
The thing with his ex-girlfriend and the...
So we're past that now. We're in the betrayal. So you still have to catch up.
Yeah, I was just commenting upon how they wanted to reemphasize the betrayal and the loss, and they did that with Jet and his arm. I really think they wanted to hit that point home, that Jet symbolized that loss.
And they've been hinting at how naive Jet can be over the last few episodes. They'll drop a line here and there that just shows that he's very stuck in the past.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you bring up the D&D alignments. I just realized, okay, so Jet's lawful good.
Yeah.
Spike is definitely neutral good.
Yeah.
Faye is neutral.
Yeah.
And Ed is, in many ways, Ed is chaotic good.
Yeah.
They cover the spectrum with all four of them.
Yeah, and Vicious is definitely chaotic evil.
Yes.
Chaotic evil. I mean, wow. He was a bad guy who, I mean, he just symbolized the blackness one can have in their heart. He did not care, just as long as, it was a reference of it that was made in Batman with regards to Bane, that some people just want to watch everything burn.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
That was vicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was vicious.
You say that like there's something wrong with that.
And
it depends on your taste of anarchy. But yeah, I mean, he loved that bird. He loved that bird, but outside of that, Vicious really had no other emotional context whatsoever. It was just either you align with me, you follow me, or you die.
And when they were we were talking about 12 and 13, I mentioned that they really established that Vicious and Faye are coming from very similar places. They feel that they don't need anybody else. They have to look out for themselves, but they're going in very different directions. Vicious just keeps going closer and closer to that edge, but thanks to Spike and Jet, Faye is coming back from it.
Well,
Vicious
remember,
didn't have that. Yeah, Spike, but that was it.
Yeah.
They said that I don't need comrades, and that's what Vicious said in the previous Jupiter Jazz portion or arc, if you will. So that goes to that concept that she thinks that she didn't need anybody. So her and Vicious are a lot alike in that way. It could have been if Jet and Spike didn't essentially save Faye, she could have been part of Vicious's or another nemesis.
Yeah. Or she could have easily ended up with the Syndicate.
Yes.
Her ability.
Yes.
Cool. So going on to
back to 16.
16. I noticed that there was very little music in this episode, which I really thought was more because it was definitely an emphasis on the backstory
Mhm.
and more of an emphasis of what's going on. There's a lot of sound. All the sound effects are very well done. So it's really the emphasis of the darkness, the bullets, all of the shells. Every single one clearly rang out when they fell down. And I like that how when Odai, when they describe Odai, they're talking about how he's old-fashioned. So he is the black to Jet's white, if you will, in terms of what is it called, the foil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he's the foil of Jet. That's what I thought of, because he was his essential,
The opposite.
huh?
It's his opposite.
Yeah.
Odai is completely. He's chaotic evil. He is do what you have to get what you want.
Right.
But the lack of music, I didn't catch it at the time, but I think it seems to also add to the creepiness of the
Yes.
prison ship.
Yes, it does. It really does. Definitely.
The backstory, all the noir stuff, kind of screams out for some nice old school jazz.
Uh-huh.
But you come into that prison ship with all of those bodies, just having no music and just silence except for the engine hum was just so creepy.
The only time we really get music is during the flashback with Jet. We get the saxophone,
Yes.
but that's it. That's all we get for in terms of music, and then we also get a little bit of music towards the end when you've got the fight with Odai, and you also have but then after that it stops. And then you get the shot that Jet kills his old partner.
Right.
I don't remember his name now, but he kills him with. And so that also emphasizes like the death, like the true death, if you will, of his past now.
Yeah.
I mean, Jet is now.
You kind of hope that he's now going to move on and grow a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's time for Jet to realize that the world is not as nicely cut and morally sound as he would hope it was.
I think Fad really symbolized Jet's final innocence. That was the one thing that was anchoring him to that level of sensibility. And when he shot Fad and killed him, I think right along with Fad's death, everything that was Jet's innocence and his belief, his solid belief in the justice structure, right?
Yes.
That was killed along with that.
Yeah.
Right.
When Fad tells him sayonara, partner, it was, so I actually thought of the first thought I had was when they were on the ship going to the prison ship, and Fad tells him, maybe we can be like the good old days, and if you want to rejoin the ISSP, and it'll be just like old times. And Jet says, I'll think about it maybe if we get back.
Yeah.
So it really kind of tied back together. And then, of course, he says at the end, I guess I couldn't quit smoking after all.
Love that one.
Yeah. And these statements are very poignant. If you watch the episode and you take in the statements that are made and then you watch subsequent episodes afterwards, you'll find that a lot of these statements are very poignant. And like, for example, the end movie when Spike and Faye were talking to one another, because Faye was trying to understand him, like she wanted to know why he was the way that he was. And no spoilers, of course, but you learn something about Spike that's very intimate. Right. There are intimate things about Spike. Spike is a very intimate person. He has an intimate past, but it's just that to him, we all handle tragedy or very extreme things differently. Some people, they handle it face on, and they just get rid of it, take care of it. Some people, they just kind of maybe just dream it away, maybe imagine it as though it were a dream. So if you listen to the lines that are spoken, they do have a poignance and a point as the story develops.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
We've talked a lot about what the episode is taken from, what is influenced by, but I also noticed there is a Battlestar Galactica episode that has heavily borrowed from this episode. There's a prison ship that gets taken over by the inmates.
Yes.
In a reboot, Battlestar Galactica reboot episode.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you made that connection.
I was thinking the Lauren Green original Battlestar version. Just to show my age off, right?
Yeah, I'm not the old one here. Good. No, but in the reboot from a few years ago, there was an episode where the inmates took over a prison ship.
Yep, they took over. Yep, that's right. Oh, brilliant! I'm glad you made that connection. Okay, so anybody else have anything else to add about episode 16?
That's it. That's all I got.
All right, let's talk about what we're watching right now for like the next 7 minutes. Because it's going to be 6 o'clock and these Hangouts are running longer than I expected, which is awesome.
This one's at least will be shorter than the last one.
Almost, yeah. So right now I have continued on in Fate's Day Night Unlimited Blade Works. As I told you, the art is absolutely stunning. Ufotable did an incredible job. I really appreciate that they are taking their time with developing the characters. Instead of the previous Fate's Day Night works throwing you out there, just making you guess what's going on, and the characters having these motives that you don't really understand, and you don't really know where
they didn't do a good job. Yeah, they did not do a good job on backstory.
No, absolutely. And compared to the Fate Zero work, it was incredible. So, except for the ending, of course, being that everyone associated the Fate Zero storyline with Fate's Day Night of the previous work. So it was that awful connection that you had. But now I think there's going to be more interesting, let's see how it develops type of thing. I mean, the storyline I'm not crazy about. I'm not crazy about the Fate's Day Night.
Just the background story and the current storyline that it's building upon now.
Yeah, so we'll see where it goes. For me, my whole problem is it's high school, but at least they've done a much better job of explaining how it got here and why it's high school. They've done a better job of showing that, as well as it shows how the Grail itself is starting to choose and starting to be a more corrupt system. But that gets into the Fate Zero, whole Fate Zero world and Natsuverso, and we're not going to even go into that because that's going to be on our list. Fate Zero is on our list.
Good stuff.
I'm also we were talking about Parasite the Maxim. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've checked any of that.
I watched that show religiously. Mm-hmm. I even have been trying to get the live action movie that's out.
Oh my!
Yeah, but I haven't found it yet. Hopefully, I'll find it by the end of this week, and then maybe I can showcase it to you guys.
That should be interesting.
Awesome! Yeah, totally.
Can't wait to see the effects in it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you're caught up, Leandre.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
I just caught up today.
Awesome. So what do we think is happening in the show?
I'm really interested. I'm really interested to see what they're gonna do with Tamara. She's a complete rogue now. I mean, she was a rogue to begin with, but now she has no allies.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I saw that developing because I mean, at the end of the day, okay, she had her own agenda. Yeah. She had her own agenda the whole entire time. Yeah, exactly. And for her, it's not so much, okay, well, I had the kid, and now the kid has emotionally grown me into a good person. It is, I have a means to an end. I am on a path. I'm not going to veer from this path, so you're either going to follow me on this path, or I'm going to go alone.
Yeah, and I love the flash of maternal instinct.
Oh, yes. For the laugh.
Well, no, when the PI held the kid out and was going to threaten to drop the kid, and she right through the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had no qualms about that at all, and the detective was trying to test and see how far she would go, and he was shocked to see that she had developed some sort of something, maybe some emotion, and even Migi, the Shinichi's parasite, Migi was shocked to say, because I remember Migi says, this is something that I've never felt from another parasite. Like, this is not animosity, this is not hatred. There's some sort of other feeling going on, and I don't know what that is.
It's probably the maternal instinct.
And that's where I was saying
and that's one thing that got me about that. Okay, so for me, I'm hearing and I'm seeing maternal instinct. Instinct is my key word here. I know everyone is associating with emotions, but I mean, maternal instincts are maternal instincts. I'm thinking that she acted more instinctively, just like when she laughed instinctively, just like when she can look at her child and say, quiet, and the child just like that. I think there's a very close instinctive bond there.
Yeah. Well, there is a clear connection of some sort, because that can't be trained. When she said quiet to the kid and it just shut up, that kind of creeped me out.
Yeah.
As much as they say the kid's human, he can't be if she can do that.
Well, remember that she had the baby with another guy.
But
you ever see like Japanese babies on trains and stuff? They're the most well-behaved little kids around. I mean,
it's all genetic. It's all genetic. So understand, the child could be human, but there could still be one or two alleles that are actually parasite, and in that manner, she could control her baby like that.
Right. Yeah. Good point.
That totally opens up all new questions and all new potentials to think that this is like a partial parasite baby / human.
Yeah.
And
because we know it's possible.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because they're individual cells, the aliens. They're groups of cells working together.
Right.
Yeah.
And I loved when she split in two to take out the other parasites, and the part of her that was running around was just completely insane.
Oh yeah.
That was genius. I also
make a sexist remark.
Huh?
Never mind. Never mind. Gotta remember which hangout I'm in. Sorry.
So the genius of that was really well done. Especially going back to the previous episode where you have the guy with the 3 parasites in him.
Oh yeah.
Fighting.
Yeah.
That was insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I really thought that was very, very interesting. And I didn't even think that would be possible.
And that was very clever in that they take turns controlling the brain, being the control center.
Yeah.
Right.
Love that part.
Well, they're taking the same concept and they're just multiplying it. I thought that if a parasite took over a human's cranial or just a head area, that's it, that was a win. So seeing Shinichi's friend and the fact that the parasite actually got in his jaw.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I love that. The jaw guy, what is his name?
Udo, I think. Was it Udo?
Jono something, I don't know. But yeah, that guy was. I love that guy, and he's his ally, Yeah. And it's a shame that Shinichi also lost his detective, because the detective was a good ally for him in helping to figure out kind of what the Hikawara party was doing and what their motives were essentially. Right. The other thing that I thought was actually I'm getting annoyed with is the girlfriend or the wannabe girlfriend.
Yeah.
Can we just kill her off already? I preferred Kana.
I half expected it to die in this one.
Because the other girl had more of a sense. The other girl, the reason why she has like some sort of ESP that was connecting her to the parasites, I really got upset when they killed her off.
Kana was just a much more interesting character. Exactly. Huh? Kana was just more interesting. They could have gone in so many directions with her.
Yeah.
Satomi is the classic girlfriend.
I can't stand her. Mm-hmm. I absolutely can't stand her.
But you know why they did that, right? So first of all, we are in the beginning phases of this show. The show is still developing itself. So in doing that, when you bring someone on like Kana and you keep her on too long, it takes the focus away from the main character.
Good point.
and then he
That's
places
true.
it upon someone else. I think that's why they killed her off.
Mm,
But don't get me wrong, they'll revisit it. I'm
Oh
sure
yeah,
they
they'll
will.
probably
Yeah.
introduce somebody else with the same ability.
maybe similar
Yeah.
ability.
Yeah.
Um, I also
and-
like the fact that the dad is still around. I
Mhm.
appreciate that they haven't killed off his father,
Mhm.
because that's his like last lifeline in terms of emotional connection to the world.
Yeah.
Right.
He really, really, when he called his father and he told him, he's like, listen, I'm a good son. There's a lot of crazy shit going on,
Mhm.
but I just really want you to know that I'm okay,
Uh-huh.
but you need to leave, like right now. He's like, the thing that you were telling me about and how mom was killed?
Mhm.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And
That's coming for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the father didn't even give him a second
Mhm.
question, So I'm glad that they've kept the father around because he's going to be important, I'm sure, to maintaining that human side of Shinichi.
And the fact that they're showing more and more distance between Shinichi and Satomi also kind of demonstrates his kind of departing from humanity. Because she was also his tie to humanity early on.
I also think that his departure from Satomi is a good kind of thing because we're getting away from more of the high school bullshit
Yeah.
that you get in anime and typical anime trope and typical slice of life and typical shoujo and typical whatever, and it's not giving us that moe kind of feel, which I really appreciate because Satome's character, I am getting, like I said, I could take it or leave it, but
He's just kind of boring.
I can understand where she's coming from. My whole thing is just that Shinichi is in another world now. Shinichi's got some serious issues that he's going to have to deal with. I think it's going to be really funny coming next episode if Tamara shows up with the baby and Satomi's there and then Shinichi's like, well, it's not mine.
That's what I'm wondering. Did she give him the
It's not
kid?
there.
She said she had something to give him at the park.
Right.
After the fight. Did she give him the kid? Or are they...
We'll find out.
We'll find out. They
Remains
cut before.
Yeah.
They cut before she did. Because I had a feeling that's what she's going to do.
Yeah.
Because she wants someone who's more human to raise the kid.
Yeah. Maybe.
I have to run to an appointment.
Same
This was
here,
really
actually.
great.
So
This is fun.
This was awesome. Thank you, Lauren, for joining for a minute, and thank you, Leandre. Thank you, John. We'll see you guys again next week.
17, 18, 19 for Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Tuesday I'm going out of town, so it might be only once.
So Thursday.
But we'll figure it out.
We'll find it. Okay.
I'll tell you in the community. All right. Bye, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Jenny.
Jana.